Hey guys, I'm just here to explain to you how to do Activity 62, which is to play this water cycle game and then develop your water cycle story. So I'm going to show you how to use the cards because it can get a little bit confusing, and then how to fill out this corresponding sheet that goes with it. If you don't have this sheet, like if you're at home looking at this lesson, it's pretty easy to set up a table just like this. So just a couple of things before we start. You're allowed to choose any of these cards to start on. So all of these cards are lining up with a place or a part of the water cycle. So you could choose your starting point. You'll notice that for every card that we have, the title of the card is important, but under here you have a list of things that could be precipitation. So this is where you get to choose. You can choose to be rain, snow, frozen rain, mixture of rain and snow. Those are options that you have. So you get to choose any of these that you want when you move to that step. So one thing that's important too, and I've added this because this is going to be important for when you write your story, you want to make sure that when you play this game and when you're writing your story, you need to make sure that you hit every state of matter. So make sure that when you're looking at your cards and you're making choices about which card or what part of the molecule you want to be, make sure that you mix it up. And somewhere on your sheet, you have to be a solid, a liquid, and a gas. So take that into consideration. So let's say that you can choose your starting point. You can start wherever you want to start. So choose a place where you want to begin in a phase of matter that you want to begin in. I think I'm going to come over here and I'm going to start with the organism card. So I'm going to start with my first one. I think that I'm going to start inside of a plant. So I would come to my card, or I'd look at my card and then I'd come back over here. My card title is organisms. And I'm going to be inside of a plant. So out of my options over here, I decided that I'm going to be inside a plant. Now, over here, you have to tell me what state of matter would you be in if your water molecules were a part of this. I have a lot of kids that will think that if I'm inside of a plant or inside of a tree, I must be a solid. But remember, solid water is ice. So if I'm inside of a plant, I'm still liquid water running inside the plant. So I would put over here that even though I'm inside of a plant, I'm inside of a solid, I am a liquid. Okay. I don't have to put anything here, but on my next column, I'm going to have to explain how I get from my plant to my next step. So I will take a look over here. You guys will roll your die. So you roll your die, and this would be where you would go next. So let's say that I roll a 1, and so I would go to, I'd look down here. I would roll 1 or 2, and I would go to the atmosphere. So go over here to this card over here, and then this would be my second card. So I fill it out accordingly. I'm going to be in the atmosphere. So I was a liquid, so maybe I want to change phase here. I was a liquid, so maybe I want to evaporate and go into the wind, which would be a gas. So I would decide what I want to do. Over here, I would kind of do the same thing. This time, though, I'm in the atmosphere. And I chose to be in the wind. And in the wind, I'm going to be a gas. So over here on the side, I'd have to explain how I got from inside of a plant to a gas. So describe how your water could have changed or moved from that. Explain how speed, spacing, and attraction of molecules can change. So over here, I might say something like, water transpired from leaves. In other words, it evaporated, right? You can say particles are moving faster and far apart. So I'm explaining how I would go from a liquid to a gas. Okay. You can say less attraction. Okay, and you just keep on going from here. So you take the dice again, roll your die. I got a 2. So if I look in the atmosphere, I would take a look at number 2, and I would become precipitation. So I would find my precipitation card once again, so I know that I'm putting precipitation over here. And then I would have to choose one of these that I could be. So I'm a gas now, so I might want to consider what I could be next. So maybe I would choose to be rain. And then I come over here and say that I'm rain. I would go back to a liquid, which is fine. It's fine to use the same state of matter more than once. I just need to make sure that I make my way into a solid at some point along my journey. So once again, I would explain how I would get here. So I might explain something about the gas molecules cooling down and condensing to make a cloud, and then the cloud precipitates water out, which would be like a liquid. You would talk about the particles. If I'm going from a gas to a liquid, my particles are going to slow down, get closer, move slower, be more attracted to each other. But these are the kind of things you're going to put here. You'll keep on going all the way through until you have all of your 6 stops set up. And then when you're finished, you need to start developing this into a story. So if you look at the back side of your half sheet, here's your rubric. And your rubric is going to explain to you how you turn this into a story. You have a lot of options in terms of how you want to do this. I've had kids do comic strips and done books and written stories. But you do want to be creative here. Please look at your study guide, or sorry, not your study guide. Look at your rubric, because it's going to tell you what you need to make sure that you do for each stop. So your instructions for the rubric say you have to show 3 stops on the water cycle, and during the stops, you must change into each state of matter at least once. Follow the rubric and be creative. So what it's saying is that when you actually put this into a story, you only need to choose 3 stops. So there might be some steps that don't make a lot of sense to you. There can be parts that you take out. I mean, you can do the entire story if you want from top to bottom. That's up to you. But you at least have to do 3 stops, and you have to hit every state of matter. So one stop would be like from step 1 to step 2. That would be like stop number 1. From the atmosphere to precipitation would be stop number 2. And then from precipitation to wherever I went next would be stop number 3. So you have to explain at least 3 of these stops along the way. You may do more, but you need to make sure, I would need to make sure that in my next card, I made sure that I was a solid if I wanted to do my first 3 steps. You might find yourself wanting to take steps out if they don't make sense, and that's okay. But you need to choose 3 steps along your journey, at least, that you're outlining for your story. So please make sure that you follow the instructions so that you know what you have to include for each step. So make sure you look at that rubric. So once again, I've had kids do everything from comic strips, which are cool. I've had kids make books. I've had kids make songs and things like that. It doesn't matter to me as long as you find a way to show what you know about the water cycle and the steps that are there. So I can show you one more thing. So once again, by looking at the rubric, let me pull this up here. So even though I say you only have to do 3 stops, the stops are going to be pretty detailed. I've made a key at the bottom here, but this is just an example. Now, yours does not have to be as detailed as this, but here might be an example of 1 stop. So if I started as a liquid inside of a plant, I would say I bump into my neighbors a lot. We are pretty close friends, and I feel like I have a little space to move around. I have some energy. I can feel myself being pumped up into the plant's leaves. Once I get to the leaves, I notice a strange feeling. It's getting hotter, and I start to move faster and faster. I have more space to move now, and I have even more energy. I can see my neighbors flying by me at really fast speeds. Because of this, I don't encounter many neighbors anymore. As I begin to move out of the plant's leaves and into the air, I have evaporated, the plant's leaves transpired, and I am now a gas. So you can see that if you look at your rubric, I've addressed all parts of the rubric that I need to in order to have one stop done. So this is one stop. You need to do 3 stops. This water cycle story will count as a quiz grade. And so make sure that you do your best and make it look great. If you have any questions, let me know.